Welcome to the Rockin Rich Lynch on the Radio Show. I'm your host, Rockin Rich Lynch, inviting you to join me as we discover great new music by bands and artists from around the world. With interviews, music news and reviews, great prizes, and a whole lot more. Visit us online today at soundpress.net for great music promotion and publicity. Hi, this is Rockin Rich Lynch, and you're listening to the very best of Rockin Rich Lynch on the radio. We recently moved our operations from the New York, New Jersey market to Nashville, Tennessee, and we are now looking for a production and broadcast partner in the region to take the radio show to new heights. If you're a band, musician, solo act, or represent a musical project in any genre, please visit soundpress.net and our new site, musiccitynashville.net, to learn how we can help get your message to the world. Now, please enjoy this great interview from our archives. The man we are about to speak with has fronted a horn-centric R&B band for nearly 4 decades now. Now he's back leading a roots rock outfit called The Poor Fools, whose new album, Songs from the Barn, is out now on his own Leroy Records label. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show today Mr. Southside Johnny Lyon. Southside, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So you are coming to town. You're bringing the Jukes to the Shea Center in Wayne, New Jersey on February 16th. That will be a makeup show. Do you have anything special in mind since this will be a redo for you?
No, the only thing is I have to apologize. I got a cold, and it went right to my throat, and there were 2 dates, and I thought, I can't even get a sound out. And in my younger days, I used to do those kind of shows and just croak through it, but I figured it was New Jersey we could reschedule, so I will take requests from the audience to make up for all of the terrible things that I've done.
Hey, well, Southside, it happens. So, Southside, the new album is Songs from the Barn with your roots rock collective known as The Poor Fools. What does this grouping allow you to do that musically you might not be able to do with the Asbury Jukes?
Well, it's a wide spectrum of music, and these are songs that really don't fit the horn band style, R&B, rock and roll style. It's a little quieter. It's acoustic guitars sometimes, and sometimes electric guitars. But we still, I'm an old rock and roll dog, so we still rock out. It's different materials from country, folk. We still do blues, and rhythm and blues. I am what I am, so I can't change it too much. But it is a little bit more intimate, so it gives us a chance to play some of the smaller places, which are a lot of fun. We played a lot of churches. I don't know what that means. What are they trying to tell me?
You're getting religion again.
I guess so.
So, yes, Outside, I've spent some time with the album the last couple of days. I really like track 3, Gone Underground. The rest of it's really good, but I like the acoustic style on that. And instead of the horns blowing around a lot, you're playing a lot of harps. So it's all good, and maybe this will represent a new outlet for you moving forward.
Well, I've done this kind of stuff before. We used to do a lot of Bobby Bandiera and I would put together a 4-piece group and go out and do charity stuff because it was a lot easier and a lot cheaper for the charities. And, I want the band to get paid, even if it is a charity thing. And I've always enjoyed it because it gives you a chance to kind of just close your eyes and sing and sink into the song and like that. It's just a different style of performing and singing. So I thought I'd make it a little more formal this time since I own my own label, and that's why we made the record.
Okay, I got a multi-part question here, Southside, a little bit, just to tell you a little bit about myself. In the 70s and 80s, my parents owned a business in Paramus, New Jersey, and they hired plenty of college-age kids and high school-age kids, and at the time, Southside, you were much loved among that demographic. Like, you don't need me to tell you that, though.
No, people have kept me going for a long, long time, which I really appreciate.
And, it was a big deal around that time when you moved to Ridgewood, New Jersey, so much so that you were welcomed to the town with a little bit of barn graffiti.
That's right. Somebody put it on the water house there. They said, "Welcome to Ridgewood, Southside." And, of course, the police came and said, "Did you do that?" I said, no, it's not me. Why would I do that?
Hey, in the age before the Internet, Southside, you had to get the promotion where you could.
I guess so. They wanted me to pay for it, and I said, no, I have nothing to do with this. Leave me alone.
Now, I was told that during your Ridgewood years, you would often show up downtown at a club there and play with the Jukes under a pseudonym.
That's Not really true. Mark Pender, who was in the band at the time, he had his own band called Throwdown, and they would play in a club downtown Ridgewood, and half of the Jukes would be in that band. So I would go down there, and we'd do a bunch of stuff, and so it wasn't really formally the Jukes, although there were a lot of Jukes in it. It was a lot of fun. It was just crazy R&B.
Is that something you still do to this day, where you might pop in on a club unannounced?
Sure, if it's what I want to do, and people come up and play with us too. So, one of the joys of being a musician is stepping out of what you normally do. You don't want to do 9 to 5. You don't want to do the same show every night. You want difference in your life. That's one of the reasons why you became a musician, so that every day would be different. And sometimes it drives you crazy, but it is what you wanted. And jamming with people, singing other songs, that's always a good thing.
Well, you're bringing up, I got a lot of questions here, and you just brought up, singing with people, being a musician, jamming with a lot of people, and over the years, a little-known storefront on Cookman Avenue in Asbury Park has gained notoriety because it was the home of the Upstage Club, something that is getting more and more legendary as the years go by. I mean, in the 80s, a lot of people might not have really known about it, but through word of mouth, and a lot of people have written about it in books. It's where all you guys came together and honed your chops as young kids in Asbury Park. And can you just recall a little bit about what the Upstage was and how you came to perform there?
Well, it was a 3-story red brick building on Cookman Avenue on a corner, and the bottom floor was the Tom McCann shoe store. The next floor was the coffee house where they would have acoustic acts. And on the third floor, this long club was with a stage and drums already there and amps and a keyboard and all that. And all you had to do was show up with your guitar, or in my case with your harmonicas, and you could get to jam with all these people. And that's when I met Stephen and Bruce and Bobby Williams and Davey Sanchez and all these other people. We all would end up at 4 o'clock in the morning at the Upstage Club. This is back in the 60s when we were teenagers. And since there was no alcohol served, they could stay open and teenagers could hang out till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's what we did. We tried to do it every night.
It's pretty special because not every main street in America had that. And then the quality and caliber of people that emerged from that scene, it really helped you out, though, really. I mean, didn't it really kind of fine-tuned you?
Yeah, it was our college. It was our Harvard. We would play. We would go there. I worked at the post office for 10 months, and I saved up a bunch of money. But I would go directly from the post office in my little blue shirt and go up and sing blues and rhythm and blues and things like that. But I would get there around 9 o'clock, and we literally would play 6 or 7 45-minute sets of all kinds of material. Everything we could think of we would do, and just experiment and jam, play with a million different people, because we were learning how to do it. It was really a great experience for us because the audience was very open-minded. They realized we were trying to find ourselves, and they were very, very fair with all that stuff. They tell us what they thought. Sometimes it wasn't very good, but you needed to hear that too.
Hey, Southside, let me regroup here. We're talking with Southside Johnny. SouthsideJohnny.com is the website. His band, The Poor Fools, they have a brand new album out called Songs from the Barn on Southside's own Leroy record label, and it's great to finally get to talk to you here, Southside. Your fans, of course, your early adherents and your hardcore fans love you for that first group of albums that came out in the 70s, and then you were perceived to have a comeback album in 1991, the Better Days album. And that had the great song on there, It's Been a Long Time, which was one of my favorite tracks. As to do that video, you had to do a concert at the Stone Pony.
Yeah, that wasn't much of a hardship.
No, not at all. But I read that you guys filmed the whole thing, and I went online and was able to find some professionally shot clips from that show. Has there ever been any desire or leanings to get that whole thing out to the public?
Oh, there was a whole Megillah behind that. The record company started to run out of money. They had spent a lot of money on a lot of different things, and it just kind of got lost. The whole thing got lost along the way. And I'm not really that kind of a person that I want to pursue that kind of stuff. I'm really more interested in what's going on in the future. So somebody else would have to take the reins for that. I'm not really that interested in that.
Okay, so you don't
resurrect that.
So we're not sure where that footage is really too much.
I have no idea where it is, to tell you the truth.
There are some clips online. Well, Little Steven was a big part on that. Let's talk a little bit more about Little Steven. You're founding member of the Asbury Jukes and songwriting partner early on. You just got to do. You just released. Speaking of another live album, you just got to put out "Men Without Women" live, again at the Stone Pony. So that album had its roots in Little Steven's songs for his first solo album.
Right. We recorded a number of those songs for Hearts of Stone, and it decided to change direction because neither one of us felt that it was the right thing to do for me at the time. So wrote a bunch of other things. And then Steven took those songs, which are really his personal vision of America and his place in it, and recorded Men Without Women with the Disciples of Soul, which I hadn't heard in 25, 30 years. And Sony made me a copy, and I listened to it. I went, I love all these songs. So we decided to record it live for our July 4th show, which actually is the second. I don't know why. And it came out so well. And a lot of guys from the original album came by. We had 6-1 players and singers and guitars, and Steven came down, and it was recorded very well, and I decided to put it out. So that's what that is.
Southside, that leads me to my next question. Little Steven's second album. I'm a fan. I had Men Without Women. I had Disciples of Soul albums. I had the second album, The Voice of America. Little Steven's best covered song of all time, covered by many, many artists, is a track called "I Am a Patriot."
Right.
I wanted to know if you've ever done it, or have you ever considered doing a version of that yourself?
No, I think Steven and I did it one time a million years ago, just as one of those things where we had gotten together and he was trying to promote it. But I don't remember it completely. But I've never done that song myself, no.
Jackson Browne has done that. Eddie Vedder has done it. David Lindley, and the list goes on and on. It's become like the new American anthem in a lot of ways. It's a really kind of a cool song for him in that regard. I would go out on the limb, Southside, and say that's my request for the Wayne Show.
Okay. Well, I'd have to learn it all again. Let me see what I can do.
It's easy. It's 3 chords. I played. Come on.
Yeah, I know, but you don't have to sing all the words.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. Southside Johnny is on the phone with us right now. SouthsideJohnny.com is the website. With the Poor Souls, the new album out right now is called Songs from the Barn. It's a fact that over 100 musicians have been a part of the Asbury Jukes through the years, Southside. Is it a lot of work for you every time a new member comes in or leaves the band to kind of get it back up to speed to the quality that you want to present to the general public?
No, usually if somebody comes in and they fit, they have the work ethic to learn all the songs, and if they don't, then they don't last very long. So, but I've been very fortunate through the years to have some really incredible musicians pass through the band, and right now the band's sounding probably the best it's ever sounded for a long, long time. So, people understand what the band is when they come into it. It's a lot of work on stage. It's a lot of songs. They're not 3-chord blues songs. There's a lot of work to be done to learn them, and you got to really hit it every night. But the people who want to play with the Jukes, that's what they are like. They want to do that. So usually they weed themselves out. If they realize how much work it is, they say, I don't want to do it. And, I don't try to talk anybody into anything. I just say, this is what it is. If you want to do it, we'd love to have you try.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I've seen many, many Southside Johnny and the Asbury Juke shows and never been disappointed. They're always a high level of musical entertainment. My sister was a high school senior in 1983. I was a freshman around that same. No, I was a sophomore in 1981. So she would take me to a lot of Southside Johnny shows. She went to many on her own. I remember seeing you at the racetrack in 1983. I was there after midnight. I was with a bunch of girls from a Catholic school, and I was the guy who drove. And one girl had to go home, and I'm like, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving this. And you were playing, I don't want to go home, and I was screaming, I don't want to go the blank home, all the way back to the car.
Well, there you go. That's what it's all about.
But I had to leave that one. But I've got to see you many, many times in the recent decade. And talking about this recent decade, Southside. Is it your most prolific period of all time, like from the 2000s on?
Well, there's been a lot of records. Yes, that's true. I think once you leave the record business, the music business and the record companies, you feel energized to do what you want to do, and more things come out. It becomes no longer your job, and they're not harassing you, the executives, and so you don't resent doing it, and therefore ideas flow, and you just go in studio. And luckily for me, John Bon Jovi lets me use his studio for free, and so it isn't a big cost expense for me.
Well, that's good. So you get to. I'd love to have that outlet. Everything's set up and just jam all the time. That would be a lot of fun. Just a few more. Southside. SouthsideJohnny.com is on the web. SouthsideJohnny.com is the website. He's on the phone with us right now. And Southside, I've read that you're happy where you are in your career, and you're happy that the mega stardom that happened to Bruce and Bon Jovi didn't really happen for you, but that let you be the person who you are, and it let you maintain your privacy, which is dear to you. I had a friend who saw you back in the '80s at your commercial peak at the Garden State Arts Center. And he told me the next day he went knocking on your door and to say hello. Did that sort of thing happen to you a lot at the peak of your fame?
Well, somewhat. I mean, I'm not that kind of a person. I think people realize that I'm not this big star. I'm just a singer in a band. But people get energized and they want to do things, and sometimes it gets to be a burden. But things have calmed down now, and we're all a lot older and a little bit more mature, so it's not quite the same thing. I really didn't want to ever be that kind of big star or anything. I see what Bruce and John and the rest of the people that I know go through, and it's really not for me. I mean, you have to be a special person to be able to put up with that crap.
Yeah, well, I think fans knocking on your door out of the blue, uninvited, just a couple of years after what happened to John Lennon, might have to be a disconcerting situation for anybody.
Well, I didn't think of it in that way. It's just that, I don't like to be bothered. That's when I'm thinking of my deep thoughts, I don't want to be interrupted.
Just a couple things, Southside. Hurricane Sandy devastated the New Jersey shore in the fall of 2012. I know you're back there now. How did you fare?
I didn't have any damage at all. I'm in Ocean Grove, and Ocean Grove lost its fishing pier and some of the boardwalk, but other than that, not really that much damage as opposed to Belmar and certainly Seabright and Oceanport and all the down south towns. I mean, they got devastated, so we were very fortunate.
I spoke to Gary U.S. Bonds last month, and, about Asbury Park, the revitalization that's been going on since the year 1999 or thereabouts, and how far back Asbury Park has come. I'd like you to, to talk a little bit about the revitalization, but do you think that, so much of the other lower parts of the shore have been devastated and have received so much destruction, and Asbury Park came out basically unscathed? Do you think that'll help get more bodies down to Asbury Park, coming this summer and future summers?
Well, I wouldn't say they came through unscathed. I mean, they lost a lot of stuff too, but they're rebuilding, and it's a lot of private businesses, so they're building on their own. They're not waiting for government help and things like that. Hopefully all the great restaurants, the Cuban restaurant, and I mean, there's so many great restaurants along the boardwalk now that you can go a different place every night of the week. It is really fun to see Asbury Park up and running, and you got the pinball place, pinball museum. It's neat, and I think it'll be fine this summer. Yeah,
it's been such a good thing to see that year after year. We've just been going down there, and it's just really good to see that it's finally been making a bit of a comeback. Southside, 2013's a particularly busy year for you already. Not only do you have the Poor Fools album, you're working on another Jukes album, which will be the follow-up to Pills and Ammo, which was a somewhat more serious album. Do you have an idea what direction you'll be taking on the new record?
I always hate to say that because I always think, well, I'm going to say that and then I'm going to change direction and people are going to call me on it. But I'm leaning towards straight ahead, R&B, classic R&B, just because I've been listening to a lot of that lately. But we'll see. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Super Bowl 48 will be coming into the region next year. Are you going to keep some open dates? I mean, I know in New York City is going to have a Broadway Way for the Super Bowl. There's going to be a lot of events in New York and New Jersey, and they're going to be, of course, looking for great representative rock and roll bands of the era and of the region. You hoping to get involved with that in any way?
It's way too far ahead for me to think. My booking agent will take care of that. To me, that's just, right now I'm writing songs for a new Jukes record. I'm going to be playing with the Jukes, playing with the Poor Fools. That's enough for me. I'm not going to worry about next year.
Very good. Even though it is less than a year away. Southside, you must have so many stories, and a lot has been written about you in other people's books. Have you ever considered an autobiography?
People ask me that all the time. I don't have time for that right now, and people have asked to write it. I can't imagine spending the time looking back when there's so much in front of me. So it's not on my agenda, no.
Can I ask you to look back one more time? A friend of mine asked you if you would just recall the Springsteen Chuck Berry story, and then I'll let you go.
Which one?
Well, I think when the one in the University of Maryland.
Well, it was Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And, of course, all the guys from the E Street Band are huge Chuck Berry fans, and they were told they were going to play. You know, they were going to be the band, and so they were all excited, and they know those songs backwards and forwards. And Chuck Berry came in, and Gary Talent stood there, and Gary Talent's my record collecting buddy, my partner, and he's a huge Chuck Berry fan, and he looked at Chuck and said, Mr. Berry, what songs do you think we're going to play tonight? Because he wanted to be ready. And Chuck turned around and said, well, I guess we'll do some Chuck Berry songs. And he proceeded to be a nasty man the rest of the night. So he's not the friendliest guy in the world.
But you were with the band that night. Hey,
yeah, I got to play with him too. It was a lot of fun. He wouldn't tell anybody the keys. He just started playing, and everybody had to fumble around to find the key. And you know, it was fun though. I mean, once he heard the band playing, he realized it was a real band, and he put on a great show.
Southside, I lied. 2 quick ones. You're a known record collector, as you just mentioned. Is there anything in there, any album that fans of yours might be surprised to know that you have in your possession?
Album? I'm mostly a 45 and 78 collector. I don't know. No.
Okay, very good. And I read that you're into bird watching. I just wanted to tell you that one time my wife and I were down at Cape May at the Audubon Center. We drove in there. We parked our car. There was a bunch of people around watching this pigeon at the on the roost there. We pulled up. Within 2 minutes we're there. This giant hawk comes down and dive bombs on this pigeon. And a roar of ecstasy goes up from the crowd. And people were like, "I've been waiting 5 hours for this." And and we were like, "We got it in 2 minutes time." We would not have the patience for bird watching, but it is something that's very, very cool to do. And is that something you get to do enough of?
Well, no, not enough. I mean, you have to go. The bird watching I do, you go into the jungle and you have to, you know, it's more work than just going into the. I mean, I do that too, but I don't get to go away enough. Just a lot of work this year and last year, so hopefully things will calm down in a couple of years and I'll get to do some more of it.
Okay, Southside, keep writing and singing those great songs, okay?
All right, Richard, thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to the Rockin' Rich Lynch on the Radio Show, part of the SoundPress.net radio network. Remember, if you're a band or artist looking for promotion, or if you'd like to sponsor this show or add this program to your station, please get in touch with us today at SoundPress.net.